What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Daniel Starkand. Daniel, I see you have added to your World Series gear collection there with a
That's
little
right.
sweatshirt from our friends at Homage.
Yes, our friends at Homage send us these cool little, I don't even know, are they sweatshirts? They're shirts with hoodies, whatever you want to, call them, but they're super comfortable, and I really like the design as well.
Yeah, so check out Dodger Blue 1958 on social media, by the way, because we are going to be giving out two of those exact same, to your point. It's like a long sleeve shirt with a hood on it, basically. Super comfortable, though. So thank you to them. Today, though, we are talking latest in rumor roundup, Daniel, and starting pitching is the number one topic right now. Obviously, Roki Sasaki in his own category, with Rob Manfred mentioning that he will not be signing until the 2025 posting window. So we've got a couple months to figure out what Roki Sasaki is going to do. But as far as the guys who are free agents who pitched in Major League Baseball last year, the Dodgers are reportedly, Daniel, in on all of them. Ken Rosenthal reporting that they have spoken to Corbin Burns and Max Fried and have already held a meeting with Blake Snell. None of this is surprising necessarily to me. I guess my question to you is, how serious do you think their interest is going to be in these three guys?
I think very serious. I mean, we just watched, I know the Dodgers just won the World Series, but we watched them run out multiple bullpen games throughout that run. And I definitely think it worked out well and the bullpen was phenomenal, but I don't think that's something you want to, go through on a year-to-year basis. And I think we'll get into the current state of their starting rotation, and it definitely seems like they have a lot of guys, but then when you kind of dig under the hood, they definitely need some starting pitching, some depth. And when you're the Dodgers, you're not just looking to add middle to back of the back end of the rotation type starters. You're looking at the top guys, and I don't know if they'll end up getting any of these guys or Roki Sasaki or whatever, but I would expect the Dodgers to add at least two, starting pitchers, and that's probably not even counting Clayton Kershaw as well, who will be back at some point. So, this definitely wasn't surprising to me, and I definitely think, when looking at roster needs, obviously the outfield is a huge need, and then starting pitching is right there with it.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I went through today. The Dodgers have 14 starting pitchers on their 40-man roster. And I was just curious, like, how many of these guys could go get us 9 outs today if they wanted to? How many of these guys could get us 9 outs on opening day if they wanted to? And how many guys might we be without? And it's pretty shocking. Here's a chart listing all 14 players. The headline is this: just 5 of the 14 could get you outs right now. 4 of the 14 are either doubtful or completely out for 2025. And then the other 5 are kind of somewhere in between. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Bobby Miller, Landon Knack, Ben Kasparius, Justin Robleski, the only 5 currently healthy. Were currently healthy at the end of the year. And I know Kasparius figured only as a reliever at the major league level, but keep in mind 19 of his 21 minor league appearances were starts. And then you've got a bunch of question marks. Tyler Glasnow coming off an injury, might be ready by opening day. Shohei Ohtani coming off multiple injuries. ETA probably not by opening day. They're hopeful maybe the first month or two of the season. Dustin May coming off an injury. I would say he's probably the most likely of this bunch to be ready by opening day. But there you go. Tony Gonsolin coming off injury, although will be healthy by opening day. Gavin Stone, shoulder surgery, out for 2025. Kyle Hurt, Emmett Sheehan, River Ryan, all 3 had Tommy John surgeries last year. Sheehan had his early enough in May that it's possible he could be ready halfway through the season. Nick Frasso missed all of last season with an injury. He should be ready by opening day. And then I mentioned Kasparius and Robleski healthy. So to your point, Daniel, you look at the list. Yes, there are 14 starters on the 40-man roster, but there are a lot of needs. And so the question I wanted to ask you was, with Roki Sasaki now not being posted until January 15th, there's going to be an interesting timeline situation here with these starting pitchers, specifically guys like Blake Snell, who had to wait last offseason, probably wanting to sign, I would say even before January 15th, and then teams waiting to see what Roki Sasaki is going to do. If you're the Dodgers, are you basically pursuing one of these 3 guys? And then if you also get Sasaki, great. Or is there room for 2 of those 4 pitchers? I guess is what I'm asking.
I absolutely think there's room for 2. And I think the reason for that is the calculus with this is you're not trying to get to 5 with this starting rotation. You're trying to get to 6, and even beyond that, obviously you want more depth. Like you just mentioned, how many of these guys are coming off injuries? Like none of these guys are gonna throw 200 innings next season. Like spoiler alert, that the Dodgers are just not gonna let that happen. And they, they got all, Yamamoto, Otani coming back. Like all these guys need, they need a 6-man rotation. So if you're the Dodgers, you don't really have the luxury of just waiting for Roki Sasaki in January and saying, hey, if we don't get him, like we'll be fine. We got enough. Like you need to go add now. And the best part about the whole Sasaki thing is it's not like you have to like set money aside, and account for that. Like you could go out and spend big money on 1 or 2 of these guys. And then if you add Roki Sasaki, it's going to be for dirt cheap. And then obviously that's a great addition to your rotation. But I don't think you're necessarily approaching this offseason, with Roki Sasaki as the main focus right now, at least. Obviously, once he gets posted and that whole process starts, you shift your focus there. But right now, I think you just build your team with the with the idea that you're not signing Roki Sasaki. Like we got to go out and address our needs and build a starting rotation. And then if Sasaki enters the mix and decides to come here, like obviously phenomenal news, and you could adjust accordingly. But I think now, like if these big dogs are trying to sign quick, you definitely got to be in on it. And that's from the reports we've seen the Dodgers are.
And keep in mind too, Sasaki's not a slam dunk to, like, even if he signs January 15th, to be a guy you're just penciling into your opening day rotation either. There were some injury concerns with a dip in velocity that he experienced last year. And he's a young kid who hasn't pitched in the United States. So with his contract situation, there's a decent chance that whoever brings him over might have him spend a couple of months sort of acclimating to the United States and getting used to the rhythms before actually throwing him into a major league rotation. Obviously, the 2 other names you hinted at that we haven't mentioned are Walker Buehler and Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw expected to re-sign with the Dodgers, but even he had to have a couple procedures to clean some stuff up on his own body. And so he's probably not going to be available for opening day. Walker Buehler, on the other hand, if signed, presumes to be available. So when you look at this group, I mean, even if you just say, okay, who can I pencil in for like end of April, beginning of May 1st, like we're talking a month-ish into the season, who can I pencil in being available? Yamamoto, I mean, maybe Glass now, I guess, like Shohei Otani, I guess, Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, Bobby Miller, Landon Knack. I mean, there's 7 right there. But beyond that, like Kasperius, Wrobleski, maybe Buehler if they re-sign him. So like you can already see how your number is 7. That's a month into the season. And we know with Glass now, Otani, May, Gonsolin specifically, those aren't, and Bobby Miller because of performance, like those aren't 5 guys you want to be dependent on May 1st. Those are guys that, like, if you get to the end of the season and they're still healthy and they're your number 4 or 5, okay, you can live with that. It's better than bullpen games. But those aren't guys that you want to like build your rotation around. Man, we're good. We got May, Gonsolin, and Bobby Miller in the 4, 5, and 6 spots.
Yeah, no, spot on. And a lot of these guys, like the ones that are coming off injuries, like I was saying earlier, you don't want them throwing 200 innings. So like you said, a lot of these guys you would prefer to just kind of get them started on May 1st or middle of May or whatever, just because you don't want to have to shut them down in August or something because they're already at 140 innings, which that's best case scenario. Like worst case would be them getting re-injured just from throwing too much or whatever. So you definitely want to be, cautious with all these guys. And to do that, you have to have the depth in place. And you name some guys who could possibly be able to contribute, like Bobby Miller, for all we know, could come back and look like a number 2 starter next year. And I don't think any of us would be that surprised, but we also wouldn't be surprised at all if he's just not part of the mix at all, So same with Wrobleski, Landon Knack, I think we probably have a little more confidence in just because we saw, he could kind of be a back end of the rotation starter last year. But at the same time, these guys are just prospects, and you really, it's a mixed bag a lot of the time. So you definitely want to get in a couple of these, legit starters who you could count on, like you said, to be ready for opening day. Like who's going to pitch in Japan right now? Like Yamamoto and Glass now, I guess, but they come with their own risks as well. So if you're the Dodgers, you definitely want to load up on depth and also just quality depth. Like if you could add another ace to the mix, that's only going to make you feel a lot better about your chances come October.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Glasnow's coming off elbow soreness, so I mean, I've joked all along, like if you want to bank on, if somebody wants to bank on Glasnow being ready for opening day,
Yeah,
like you are more than welcome to. I'll pencil him in for like the middle of May or something like that.
yeah.
One name I just do want to mention because I think it'll be interesting to see, and he's coming off of major injury. But Nick Frasso was actually the organization's top pitching prospect before I believe he had shoulder surgery a year ago. So just a name to keep an eye on. There was rumors that he might have been able to come back at the end of last season. The Dodgers did not rush him back, but that just tells me there's a decent chance he's going to be available for spring training and a buildup. So just a name to watch. So let's close with this, Daniel, real quick. Burns, Fried, and Snell. We've gone over it ad nauseum on this show. Snell is probably getting the shortest contract because he's the oldest. So if you're doing like a 4-year, 5-year, 6-year for Snell, Fried, and Burns at the AAVs that are expected, give me your ranking of those three guys as far as who you would want the Dodgers to sign given the projected price.
First of all, I'd take any of them if we're
Yeah.
being like. I just want to be clear. Like I will rank them, but none of them are bad options to me. I have Snell number one.
Yeah.
First of all, like you said, the contract will be the shortest, which was starting pitching. That's always preferred for me, at
Yeah.
least, just because you don't want to get locked into a long-term deal and the guy has Tommy John and then his shoulders messed up, and all of a sudden you're in year 5 of that deal and he's pitched like 100 innings. So
Yeah.
I'll take Snell first, not only just because of the contract, but I think when he's at his best, he is the best of
I
this
agree.
group and one of the best in the league. Obviously, he's won 2 Cy Youngs, and to me, he feels like a guy that if you get him with the Dodgers pitching guys, like we might see, one of his best seasons ever. So
Yeah.
I think I like Snell. I also the Dodgers are very right-handed heavy, so my preference would be, I don't care that much about lefty righty, but I'd rather have at least one lefty in the mix, and we'll get 22 back there as well eventually.
Yep.
So, but that's why I would prefer Snell, and then I'll put Fried number 2. Like I think he's pretty underrated. He's been really consistently good, and no one ever really talks about it. He's also a hometown kid. I'm sure he would love to come pitch in LA.
Yeah.
And I'll put Burns last, and that might be surprising to some people just because like he's probably the best pitcher of this bunch right now, and that's going to be, you're going to see the effects of that when he has the biggest contract of all of them, and that's part of it. But I also think he's kind of been trending down a little bit the last couple of years, and when you're talking about a 6-7 year deal for a 30-year-old who's already trending down,
Yeah.
I'd be scared to see what the last 3 years of that contract look like. And on top of that, he has been the healthiest of the bunch in the last few years,
Yeah.
which that's partly why he's getting the big contract, and credit to him. But just for that reason, I don't think you can count on that being the case moving forward. Like, just
Yeah.
he's thrown the most innings, which means he's like, science will tell you he's bound to break down at some point. And if you're the Dodgers signing him to that long-term deal, you're going to see the effects of that. And I could be wrong about all this. Like, he's a really good pitcher at the end of the day, but I would have him third of that bunch.
It is funny how you can, like, there's an argument to be made, like a trajectory of health. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
Because to your point, I mean, Burns has averaged like 32, 33 starts a year for the last 3 years. So that's 600 innings that have been on that arm
Yeah.
as he's, turning 30, 31, that kind of thing. I'm with you on Snell. I think, honestly, on our whole staff, we're all aligned in that Snell would be the guy we would want for all the reasons we've mentioned. The Dodgers tried to sign him a year ago, but there were draft pick penalties for doing so. They thought about acquiring him at the deadline. So obviously a guy, Andrew Friedman, drafted him. Like, there's a lot of connections there. It makes sense. So I have Snell one. I would just flip Burns and Fried. I think the arguments for and against both of those guys are pretty similar. I think both guys, there are numbers you could look at to make you wonder whether you're getting like a diminished version of the guy that you think
Yeah.
you're getting. And then it just comes down to the point you just made. Like, do you want a guy that's thrown 600 innings the last 3 years, or do you not want a guy? Because Burns has done it. Fried has had a little bit more injury history. But you're obviously paying less for Fried, so there's a balance there. But I would have Burns 2, and I would have Fried 3. So I'm with you on that. I'm curious to hear from people below. It seems like Corbin Burns is not a popular name, and honestly, Fried. It feels like a lot of people are just in on Snell and kind of on Burns and Fried. So I'm curious to hear from people in the comments below what you think. And again, obviously, we're all hoping that Roki Sasaki, Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler are all three added to one of the guys from this list. That is Daniel Starkand. I'm Jeff Spiegel. As always, folks, we appreciate you joining us here on Dodger Blue 1958. If you haven't already, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and again, stay tuned on social media for that homage giveaway that should be coming in the next couple weeks. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. As always, go Dodgers.